Now, now we fast forward to 2011. Skyrim is released. The main game is set within Skyrim, and it's 200 years later after the events of Oblivion, of course, Morrowind. And side note, I did not realize I left the mouse in the center of the recording, so sorry about that for the pointer being there. Alright, of course, new enemies and locations, and a new enemy being the dragons, allows us to make a brand new armor set, dragon scale, and dragon plate. Standing stones have replaced the birth sign stones from Oblivion, and of course Morrowind. Um, the only difference is the buffs are permanent, until you swap out the active blessing with a new one from another standing stone. And of course, there are 13. And just about everybody has played Skyrim, so I'm sure I'm not saying anything new to anyone watching this or listening to this. Now we've really dropped the skills down, as there are only 18 in the game now. And each skill, this is where the perk system is introduced. And the preset class system has been removed, where you no longer have to select a class and it has predefined skills. You just go at your own way. Pretty much like how the custom class is in Oblivion, and you just choose what skills you want. Alright, the armorer has been removed, as weapons and armor no longer require repair. Although smithing allows the player to improve these items and create new weapons and armor for the first time. So, for anybody that has not played the previous games, in Morrowind and Oblivion, you had to repair and maintain your armor and weapons because they could break. In Skyrim, that does not happen. Athletics and acrobats has been removed. That was the whole running, jumping, and swimming ability. It's now based entirely on race, and I'm glad they removed this, honestly, because I always thought that was weird to have this in a game. Now, I know we have athletic runners, jumpers, and swimmers, but that feels, like I said, off to have that in the game. Blade and Blunt was removed, and instead that got divided into the one-handed and two-handed skills. Mercantile and Speechcraft was moved into the speech skill. Mysticism, whatever spells that were related to mysticism, was shifted to the other magic trees. Marksman from Oblivion is now called Archery. Security from Oblivion is now called Lockpicking, again, as it was originally in The Elder Scrolls II Daggerfall. The enchanting skill has returned from Morrowind. In Morrowind, like it is in Skyrim, the enchanting skill, you would gain experience from it. In Morrowind, you did not gain experience from it at all. It was just a skill to have. You could not level it like we can in Skyrim. Pickpocketing, the pickpocket skill has returned from Daggerfall. Also, players no longer need to rest or sleep in a bed to level up our characters like we have from the previous Elder Scroll games. All we simply have to do is open up the hub skill tree menu and select what perks and stacks that we want to upgrade. Bible houses return, but you must become known in the hold that it's located in, sort of like the reputation was in Morrowind. Alchemy and enchanting have returned with the new smithing skill. Crafting has been reworked, but you must now go to the crafting stations. The crafting stations being, i.e., the forges, anvils, alchemy labs, and the arcane enchanters to make anything. And then also, players are now able to disenchant items by destroying the item and gaining knowledge of that enchantment, and alchemy apparatuses have been removed completely, making it to where we can no longer create potions on the fly. We have to go to the alchemy labs to create everything. Now, myself personally, I never bothered with crafting until I started playing Skyrim. And I'm being honest, playing Morrowind and Oblivion, I did not create potions. I did not do enchantments. I hated it. I did not like it. And I couldn't comprehend all the stuff you had to do for it. I couldn't. Um, I just, I couldn't. It was, to me, alchemy and enchanting on those games was very tedious. And it just didn't seem worth it. Which is probably why I got killed a lot because I didn't enchant my armors, my weapons, the rings and the amulets to wear, and then also making the potions, because I pretty much bought every single thing, potions, better armors, that had enchantments. I bought everything. While in Skyrim, oh no, I did everything in Skyrim when it came to the crafting. Then I started making my own armor, weapons, enchanting, the potions. Then I really got into it. When Skyrim came around, I got into it. But just in Morrowind and Oblivion, I did not. Okay. Oh. Uh, all right. Of course, vampires, werewolves, and followers return. Horses return, but they're all the term now. They're all the same in terms of health and speed, other than their appearance, except for two, being Shadowmere, which, spoiler, you get him from the Dark Brotherhood, and he actually has more health than any of the other horses in Skyrim, and regenerates his health quicker. And then Frost, spoiler again, from a side quest in Riften, has more health and stamina, but lesser than Shadowmere. So, as in all previous Elder Scroll games, barring Morrowind and previous ones, Shadowmere has pretty much always been the best horse. Uh, Fast traveling returns, but unlike how it was in Oblivion, once you hear about the location, it's displayed on your map. However, you have to go to the location first to discover it to unlock fast traveling to said location. Now, when Skyrim first came out, a lot of people, I remember reading, a lot of people were happy they did that because many thought it was odd to be able to fast travel to a location, before you even knew where it was, and felt it was breaking the RP elements of the game. And it kind of takes us back to the Morrowind days of finding the location rather than in Oblivion. We hear about a location, it's displayed on our map, and then we know where it is immediately and we fast travel to it immediately. That's what they mean. They kind of thought that was game breaking in terms of, well, how it is in Skyrim. You're meant to get on your horse and travel manually to the location first to discover it. Then you can fast travel later on. And then as I'm giving this, saying all this information and whatnot and my thoughts about this, I'm sure there are a lot of the game aspects I'm leaving out. I'm just talking about the ones that have stuck with me, that I have remembered. I'm sure, like I said, I'm leaving out a lot of stuff, but I'm actually going to attach the link, which is pretty much the Elder Scrolls wiki site, and it actually says the differences between Morrowind, Oblivion, and Skyrim. So that one goes into a little bit more detail like what I'm doing here, but that tells you the changes to everything, and I'm naming off a few things here and there. Now, carriages, they make a return. These are now used for quick travel to major cities and boats for a fee, just like it was in Morrowind. Marriage is added now, so we can get married to our chosen spouses. The factions of Skyrim, of course, are the College of Winterhold, which that's the equivalent, sort of a Mages Guild. You had the Thieves Guild returns. The Dark Brotherhood returns. The Companions, which is the equivalent of the Fires Guild, and spoiler, they're secretly werewolves. Oh. Um, the Imperial Legion has returned from Morrowind, and they are fighting against the newly formed Stormcloak faction. Um, Now, the Blades make a return during the main quest, but of course their numbers are almost non existent as the years have not been kind to them. And their opposing faction, just like with the Imperials and the Stormcloaks, uh, the Blades are pretty much are the enemies to the Greybeards. I mean, you gotta think about what you consider a joinable like faction and what you just think of as nah, they're just a group of people. It depends on your mindset when you're playing the game. Um, and like I said, the factions aren't as vast as they were in previous games. Uh, and of course, you gotta remember, like I said, this is 200 years later in terms of lore. Uh, they they had in previous games their presence was stronger in all of the cities with individual faction quests, while they were located mainly in one location now. Like the college is Winterhold, the companions are in Whiterun, the thieves are in Riften, and of course the Dragonborn, not Dragonborn, the Dark Brotherhood is in Falkreath, and later on they move to Dawnstar. Now, the Dark Brotherhood and the thieves, however, like in Oblivion, they were only centrally located at one place. Now, that I understand is they're meant to be a secret faction, so this makes sense. But if you remember previously in Oblivion, the Fighters Guild, the Mages Guild, and just those two factions, you would go from one city. That Fighters Guild has their own group of quests. You go to another city, oh, it's a different set of fighters quests, and the same with the mages and whatnot. And it's all just part of one big chain for you to become basically the leader of the faction. All right. Now, the first DLC we get is the Dawn Guard. Now, this adds extra content to becoming a vampire hunter with the Dawn Guard faction, or you become a member of the I'm not going to say this. I just call them the Volk Vampire Clan faction. And of course, they add their own quest line to the factions and story. And this also introduces us to Dragonbone weapons. So, which is the equivalent or the matching weapons that go to your dragon plate and your dragon scale. The second DLC we get, which is a very small DLC, allows us to build and design our homes somewhat, as it is a preset design from the game developers, and it also adds adoption of children to start your own family now. And this is all terms of your role playing. Like, okay, you want to have a spouse, you want to have a kids, you're the Dragonborn. Why shouldn't you? Um, Then the very last DLC is Dragonborn. And like I talked about in the Morrowind recap, this takes us back to the island of Solstheim in Morrowind from Elder Scrolls 3, the Blood Moon DLC from 2003. And the added soundtrack that comes with this DLC contains several pieces from the original Morrowind game. So this game, this DLC, Dragonborn, was very nostalgic for fans of the series that first started playing Morrowind. Like if that was their very first game, then playing this DLC, it's going to hold a special special place in their heart, not plate. All right, and now moving on, we are now going to I'm going to give my discussions about the newest, well, I'm just going to say, yeah, the newest release, which is the Oblivion Remastered, and that's coming up next.